My name is Captain Scott Frank. I should pray for my clicker, too. God called me in 2017, and I don't often get to tell this story because usually, to be honest with you, I'm in the public sector, and you kind of know how that goes. And many times I'm booked to speak at a public venue, and I even get the question about, hey, you're not going to bring up God and all that stuff. And reluctantly, I guess I do what I'm supposed to do, but I'm in God's house, so I'm going to talk about God today. Thank you. Can we hear a bigger amen than that? Yeah. Amy, I might like this pastor stuff. This could be like a new calling. So anyway, I was part of Ohio's Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that did to me. But I knew in 2017, I just had to do something different. So I formed the Digital Empowerment Project. I get to travel the country. I'm into the hundreds of thousands of attendees, which is just, and beyond a blessing. I spend a ton of time, including tomorrow, I'll be at the middle school. I spend a ton of time talking to middle school kids and high school kids, and I think it was last month, Amy even talked me into, and yes, I'm going to point fingers at Amy, I did like third graders. Like, I was terrified. Like, I do middle schoolers and high schoolers, and that's easy peasy, but these little third graders, but as I giggle about the third graders, I left and my heart was heavy. And my heart was heavy because I asked the third graders, I kind of did the same things I did with middle schoolers and high schoolers. I said, hey, tell me what it's like to be you in the digital world. Who knows what third graders are going to say? I said, hey, what risk and what are those threats that what's it like? And man, those little third graders, and I could even see the principal was like, wow, what just happened? They're talking about predators, and they're talking about inappropriate images, and they're talking about identity thieving, they called it. Like, that's cute, identity thieving. But I don't know. I left, my heart was heavy. I don't typically speak to third and fourth graders, but maybe that's something God's calling me to do more often because it is impacting all of us. I speak to kids. I speak to parents. I really hope that we fill the venue up. I know Pastor Justin and the area churches have been working really hard. We have, I think, a phenomenal event tonight, not just because I'm the speaker, but I realize that sounded terrible when I said that, but it's okay. Okay, this whole pastor thing, forget that. I'm not real sure I'm cut out for that. But hey, I think tonight will be worth your time. So we're at Market Hall in the fairgrounds from 7 to 9. I really hope we pack this place up. I changed this slide a couple years ago. I used to say I educated parents. I don't know. I think God's calling me to be even more of a warrior than I am. I don't want to just educate parents. I want to educate fierce parents. I want to educate parents that understand the implications that the internet has on us all, on our marriages, on our men, our women, and especially our kids. So that's kind of my story a little bit. I shouldn't tell you this, but I will. See the picture in the upper, the top picture. There's only two pictures, upper and lower. I know, it takes me a little bit. I'm from Ohio, but that's beside the point. So that's the last selfie I ever took with kids. Last one. I'm in a Catholic school. So who would think this would happen? And it was like, it was Captain Frank Day. We did all sorts of things. And at the very end, they said, okay, we're going to spend the last hour in the gym. I'm like, cool, we can do that. So it's just kids everywhere, they're flocking all around. And you can see the girl in the pink. Oh, bless her heart. She is back there starting a chant behind me in a Catholic school going, Baldy, Baldy. Like, okay, I have gone back to the Catholic schools, but I have never, ever taken a selfie with a kid, like ever. So if you would like to take a selfie, I'm just kidding. So, all right. And finally, I think I want to serve as a resource. So, grab a business card, although I don't think I've set them out yet. Pastor Justin knows how to get a hold of me because, after all, it's super hard to go to the yellow pages and look up Internet Safety Guy. But I want to be that for you. So that's one of the benefits of bringing me in. My beautiful wife over here is Amy. She's been super supportive. I love that she drove down here this morning. We have between us, we have 8 internet savvy kids, including we have Everly at home. She's 14, and little Griffin, he's 9. I smile when I say Griffin because I love you, Amy, but I got to say this. That kid gives me a run for my money. Like he does. He is the best Fortniter ever. But there's a little bit of story. Somebody's probably thinking, what? You let your... I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the reason I'm sharing that with you is because I get it. I mean, I do. I mean, I travel the country talking about this topic. And not only do I get it from the terms of a digital parent, but I don't always get it right. I don't. Sometimes I struggle because that's how big and that's how tough this battle is that we as parents and trusted adults and grandparents and pastors, that's how tough this battle is. So even I, who spend all my time with this topic and presenting this topic, sometimes I struggle as well. So I'm there with you. My heart goes out for you for your efforts. So, okay, there's my experience. Man, I don't know how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times I've flashed this slide, and it's still, I just caught myself again, just kind of going back. I was in law enforcement for 42 years. No, I appreciate the nice, and I wasn't not looking for accolades again. Justin, who's heard this presentation, I'm like really disappointed because I thought he would pop in here. I was hoping somebody would raise their hand and say, no way, Scott, 42 years. You don't look old enough. That's right. Yeah. I got to get a drink of water because it's too late for that one. All right, let me put my serious face on. I started off early in my career as a DARE officer. I was a school resource officer. I was in 8 different school districts. Best job ever. I coached high school girls basketball. My office was in the school. Like every day I'm there in uniform, protecting the kids, talking to the kids. And then I'll tell you what, everything changed. And it certainly changed for me personally. I'll never forget that first district. The principal called me in his office and said, Scott, I think... we're just getting so much feedback and pressure from these parents. I think we're going to start letting the students bring phones in the schools. And I'm just going to tell you, for what it's worth, I had this little belly ache and this little gut ache down here. And I even remember looking at the principal, and I said, man, I don't know if we're ready for this. I don't know if we've thought this through. So that was on a Monday, and by Wednesday, the phones are piling in and the kids are walking in and they're literally, and I'm not even exaggerating, they're literally bumping into each other because all they cared about was just looking down in their devices. The cafeteria was never the same because that's one of the times where the kids could have their phones, and it's like, what happened to engaging conversations, and what happened to kids learning to know each other and love each other and figure out about each other? They just were so engrossed in their phones. And 2 short days later, my life changed because this little 6th grade girl, and I'll never forget her, she had curly hair, short little thing. She came walking up to me and she had her phone, and for some reason I remember her walking in the hall and through the doors into the halls, and she was just like, she had this glow and she was all excited. But on this day she walked up, and I was so much taller than she was, and she put her phone up. And in her phone was a nude image of a man. And I remember to this very day, I remember saying to her, where did you get that? That's not why she came to me. That's not what she needed from me. That's not what she wanted from me. But I was so embarrassed, not because of what she did. I was embarrassed because she came to me as a trusted adult, and I didn't even understand the app that she was using. How on earth would a 6th grader have access to a nude image? We were not ready. And to be honest with you, I'm not real sure we're ready now. I'm not sure we've thought this through enough. That's why topics like this, and that's why my heart is so full that this church invited this topic in to this venue so that we can talk about this. But I knew, I was teaching DARE. I had classes from kindergarten through 12th grade. I remember Captain Frank's Stranger Danger safety checklist when I did a magic trick talking about bad guys giving candy out in street corners. Those days are long, long gone. So as I stood there looking at that 6th grade girl, I knew I had to do something different. If my heart was really for kids, I had to do something different. Because as much as I loved DARE, the whole drugs and violence, I understand those topics. But I also knew that they may not impact every single child, but the internet will. So I left. I left DARE, I left coaching, I left the schools. 2 things happened. Number 1, I became a computer forensic specialist. Oddly enough, and sometimes people giggle, my nickname was Mr. Undelete because I spent all day, every day, taking digital devices and forensically examining them. And when you hit the delete button, and this is something I will be repetitive with the students at the middle school tomorrow, because they are using apps like Snapchat, where in their precious little minds, they think that things actually disappear, and they don't. So that's what I did all day, every day, is I would recover, I would extract all these images and messages and videos that the bad guys didn't want me to find, or the teens were hoping that someone wouldn't notice. But I realized even that wasn't enough. So in 2006, I became a member of Ohio's Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. Now, while some task force members will work identity theft cases, others will work personal privacy, some will work video piracy, others will work identity theft. I chose to do something very unique. I became what is known as a chatter. So for almost 11 years, all I did every day was pose as a child online. These are 2 of my profiles. On the left is one of my 12-year-olds, Becca, and on the right is T-Guy or Trevor. He's 14 years old. Just so you know, these are not real kids. Those are actually law enforcement officers. And if you make it to the presentation tonight, I will show you what that process looks like. It's called age regression, on how we take an adult, for example, and I painstakingly literally spent hours per photo trying to manipulate the photo to make the grown adult obviously look like a teen. Now, 2 things happened in my almost 11 years posing online as a kid. First of all, and I won't do it for you, so don't ask. I don't know, I got this belly giggle that just sounds ridiculous. I had some fun. I mean, I got to admit, I get why Pastor Justin looks at YouTube videos. I get that. There's some, I don't know, there's some fun, there's some entertainment, there's, I don't know, some curiosity there. It's kind of time consuming. I mean, I get all that. I do. So this isn't a condemnation of the internet. This is us tugging at our heart to ask ourselves, are we using it like we should? And how is it impacting our faith and our families and our friends, and most importantly, our kids? Because the other side of the internet, I was laughed at, I was bullied, I was stalked, I was made fun of. I don't know what I was thinking, but one of my personas or one of my profiles, I posed over the summer like I was a new kid that was coming into a school district. Man, if that would have been a real situation, I would have never set foot in that school because I didn't feel welcomed. I was bullied. I was made fun of. I mean, it was absolutely awful. I saw and was exposed to more pornography and inappropriate images than I think a human being should be. And listen to what I'm about to say. And granted, I get it. I mean, some days I was having 100 to 125 chat sessions going on. But there was not a single day in 11 years that I, posing as a teen, especially a 12-year-old girl, there was not a single day when I wasn't pressured, asked to send a nude image. So I get it. And tomorrow I know I can just see the look on their faces where those middle school kids come in and they're looking at the old guy up front like, what? But man, when they hear my story, I don't know, it seems like it's a little different reaction and a little different attitude. Because I've spent more time than they have in their digital world. I have seen everything that is good, and I have seen everything that is evil in this thing that we call the digital world. So that's my background. So today, I just want you to pause. I mean, I'm just going to be repetitive. Sometimes I do that, and I try to emphasize things that are really heavy on my heart. This is awful special that I'm standing in a church delivering the Sunday morning message. It is. There aren't too many churches that are this bold, and notice I choose my words carefully. There aren't this many churches that are this bold, and they're not this brave. Because I don't care what you say, I've been doing this long enough and speaking on this topic across the country since 2017. For some of us, this is just uncomfortable. Like, wow, you're going to bring some guy in and challenge me about what God thinks of the internet? And most importantly, what do you think God would think about your choices that you're making in the internet? How are you doing as a husband? How are you doing as a wife? How are you doing as trusted adults, parents, or grandparents? Are you modeling good behavior? I think it's a question worth asking. What does God think about the internet? And more importantly, what does God think about your internet? Speaking of God, and I just noticed a couple days ago, I think Pastor Justin actually found the video about the God moment. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Let me explain it to you. My very first time of being blessed to deliver the Sunday morning, it has? We have not been praying hard enough. I don't know, I'm not kidding. That's like is it happening? Does it always come back? Yeah, it does. Oh, thank God. So, all right. So I was in Bedford Alliance Church in Bedford, Michigan. I'll never forget. I mean, I did. I tossed and turned and I prayed and I don't know if I can do this. And I'm going to get up in front of people on Sunday morning. It was 2 services. It was 1,100 people. I don't know. It was this sounds really corny. It was like one of the best days of my life. It was. It was just amazing. And it was really amazing because of one particular moment. I was about to go to a slide very similar to this. As a matter of fact, if you watch a little snippet of the video, I'm talking about pornography, and I'm talking about the effect that it has on us and how it challenges our faith. And I could just feel the emotion and the energy because you're going to see it before too long. That's just a topic that just rips at my heart. So I'm finishing up talking about that. And I literally, in this picture, you'll see I have my thumb on the clicker, and I'm literally about to go the slide that is this slide that talks about digital deletion. Where exactly did God go in our internet? And I'm literally about to push the button to go to this slide, and you can see the look on my face. It's this huge auditorium, and I do not know why. I don't know why, but in the center of the auditorium, there's just this empty space. This is a true story. There's an empty space, and as I'm about ready to hit that button, and I'm about ready to passionately say, gee, I wonder where God went in our internet, this huge theatrical lighting comes crashing to the ground amidst hundreds of people and just lands in the center where nobody was sitting. Yes, I said more than, oh my goodness. As a matter of fact, I think I quoted here, there was several attendees. All I heard was, oh dear Lord. I don't know. Come on, clicker. That was an amazing moment. It was. It left an indelible mark in my life. The people that were sitting around that circle, I think it left it was just an amazing moment. And I think that Pastor Justin worked so hard to bring me here, and you so graciously gave me the opportunity to take your Sunday message time. I just want this to be an amazing moment. I do. I want somebody in here to hear something that I say that tugs at your heart, that says, hey, you know what? Wow. Maybe Scott's calling me out a little bit, but we all, and I think that's what our amazing and faithful God does, is if we pay attention, he gives us those amazing moments. I had 3 attendees that reached out to me after the amazing moment, and I just want to quote some of the communications I had. Our family has been struggling with our screen time, all of us. And I remember that dialogue with that set of parents, and their struggles were real. They just couldn't put the phone down. They couldn't get away from the computer screen. One attendee said, I was primarily focused on my online life. I was lost, and God was not my priority. This came from a husband. Great guy. I talked with him at great length. But this quote just not only ripped at my heart, but man, it was ripping at his. It was. He started with online gaming. He couldn't stop looking at online pornography. And maybe I came to that church on that day to speak my words so he could have his amazing moment. Third attendee, everything changed with our teen. Her attitude, her personality, her energy, and her faith. And I'm just going to say this. Excuse the emotions. Teens are struggling. They are. They're struggling in ways that we haven't quite been able to see. We haven't quite been able to comprehend. And I hate to say this, I do. Maybe some parents don't want to see it. And the reason they don't want to see it is because they are struggling as well. This internet is attacking our teens' time, their attention, their focus. And don't you think for a second it's not attacking their faith, because it is. So I think that's why this whole Sunday morning message, I think that's why God put us all together, so that we too can have our amazing moments. I pray not only for my projector. I don't know why I'm smiling, because I honestly prayed for my projector. I did. But I spent more time praying for each of you and praying for this message and praying for this opportunity. So again, I hope you have your amazing moment. This internet, I hope you come tonight, because speaking of talking about the internet, I'm going to open your eyes to a lot. And we're going to talk about actually the 3 flavors of the internet. We're going to talk about the surface web and the deep web and the dark web. If you think you know the internet, if you think you know its complexities, if you think you know its capabilities, you probably don't. If you come tonight, you will. I've seen some parents just go from a smile on their face to an absolute blank look on their face when I talk tonight about how far-reaching the internet and what your kids have access to. This thing that we call the internet, my phone, your computers. Dear Lord, there we go. Has it been happening often? All right. As of January 2024, there were 5.35 billion online consumers. 5.35 billion. So yeah, if you heard me correctly, if you just gave your 13-year-old son or daughter internet-enabled cell phone device, they now have access to 5.35 billion online consumers. There used to be, and I chuckle when I think about it, way back then I used to put, years ago, this circle that was called the Internet Minute. And it had all of these numbers about every minute there'd be X number of Netflix videos watched, or every minute there'd be X number of chats sent on this particular app. They don't even make that available anymore, because we now quantify what happens in the internet by B for billions. You know, Snapchat, the app where things supposedly disappear, every single 24 hours, there are 6.28 billion messages going back and forth between just the users on that app. WhatsApp is the most impactful global app where it connects users across the globe. 72.5 billion messages every 24 hours just in that one app. And do you know what we have done? We just thrust our kids right in the middle of that. We did. Because for some parents, you give your kid a phone and it keeps them busy. For some parents, you give your phone and it's a pretty cheap babysitter. For some phones, you give your kid your phone because they ask for it, because all the other kids have it. So tonight, I pray you come because we need collectively to understand the battleground. We need to understand what are we up against, not just for our souls and our faith, but most importantly for our precious kids. Tonight, 7 to 9 p.m., it is the Market Hall, right, Justin? All right, Market Hall at the fairgrounds. I pray you, this is worth your time. I pray you're able to grab a friend or two. I think it's just absolutely that important. I have the absolute honor. Should I tell them the pizza story? Oh, sure. I was in the schools, and I get hungry like everybody else at lunchtime. And I don't know what the schools were thinking. They weren't feeding me like they probably needed to. So I said, how about if I talk with the kids? And I said, hey, how about if we huddle up in a room? And I kind of hinted, and before too long, they got the hint that this would be great. And I'm huddled up with the kids, and they feed me pizza. And it was great. Little did I know that it would change my life. I call it the Empower Hour. I give schools the opportunity to send me 15, 20, 25 kids. More often than not, they're teen leaders, they're student council. And we just sit. There's no PowerPoint. There's no glitchy projector. There's just, did I just say that? I did, didn't I? Hey, for whatever it's worth, it's my projector. So I can't even blame you guys. But here I am sitting in this round table with these kids eating delicious pizza. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, when I went into that, I thought, okay, they're not going to really want to talk to me. Well, they don't stop talking. And one of the things I learned, and I want to relate to you, is our kids are just begging us to ask them about their internet. So here I have all these kids, literally thousands of them. I think I've been to 17 states. So I've had some thousands of kids sitting in a table, and we just talk. That's called the Empower Hour. And I just started to try to, jot down or write or collectively kind of group some things these kids are saying. And then there's this quote from the mind of a sixth grader. I said, hey, tell me what you think the internet is. And she replied, it's kind of like God. The internet can do anything. Imagine if you've got a sixth grader that doesn't know God. What has now become her God? The internet. I asked kids, especially high schoolers, to kind of generate this slide. I said, okay. I said, tell me about the good stuff. Like, why are you online so much? And what's happening? And what's good? And what are some things you do? And you can read this list. Better access to health information, easier to communicate, wealth of online activities, decreasing isolation, improving education. And then I never forget, there was a junior boy that said, participation in democracy. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. Searching and applying for employment, maintaining curiosity, new interests, hobbies, improving the economy, adding convenience to our life, strengthening communities and social ties. And I love it when kids sit across from the pizza and they say, hey, it's just a good time. It's a good opportunity to create a better world. I'm smiling. I am. Because some of our kids get that. Our kids, I think, realize the potential of the internet. And I got to temper the excitement and the smiles with what else the kids say. The kids said, I feel like I'm consumed. There was a day when I started this, when I started talking about screen use. Tomorrow I will travel to the public schools and the middle schools, and I will, without a hesitation, I will talk to them about screen addiction. Screen addiction. And by the way, it's just not me proclaiming that. Do you know what the kids will tell me? The kids will tell me I'm consumed. The kids will say I can't put it down. The kids will tell me I've lost sight of everything else. The kids will tell me that's the first thing I go to. The kids will tell me, please don't take that device away. Our kids are starting to realize that it went from screen use to screen addiction. And I'm not real sure many trusted adults have accepted that or recognized that or realized that. The kids are also telling me my online life is stressful. It was like 4 years ago. It was one of my very first Empower Hours. I'll never forget it. Little 6th grade girl, and there's all these kids in there, and I said, hey, tell me what it's like to be you in the digital world. And I was just kind of new to this Empower Hour, so I didn't quite get all this. And this little 6th grade girl looked at me, and she had a tear coming down her eye. And she goes, it's just so stressful. And it just hit me. Like, it's not all fun and games for so many of these teens and kids. It's not all fun and games for some adults. So here we have a 6th grade girl. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's other kids in this church. I know for sure it's going to be many kids that I'm going to talk to tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. What they see and what their version of the internet is, although they may portray it to be fun and games, man, it's stressful. Their self-esteem, their self-image, they're being bullied. Everybody else is going on vacation and our family never goes. I don't have enough friends. I'm getting pressured by somebody who wants to chat and it just feels icky. I'm looking at inappropriate images. I mean, to some of our kids, they equate the internet as being stressful. And a lot of those kids, what the trusted adults do in their life? They say, oh yeah, you got to get off at 10 p.m. But I don't know, maybe we don't have the courage within to just go to our kids and say, hey, how are you doing? And what is stressful? And I've said this before, our kids want someone to ask them about the internet. The kids said, I never really feel good enough. The internet is a world of comparison. If you're looking at YouTube, if you're looking at Instagram, if you're looking at Snapchat or TikTok, how can you not compare yourself to everyone else? Because we're all just putting our lives and our choices and our habits and our faith or our lack of faith in the digital world. Our kids are saying, my parents really don't understand. And for some kids, they don't want you to understand because the less you know, the better for them. And our kids will say, God, I'm not even sure he's online because I never see him. If you think that the significant majority of kids that go to this church are spending the significant majority of their time with God in the internet, you're sadly mistaken. Because I think I am more than qualified to say the internet of today, God is noticeably absent. In fact, you have to go searching for him. You do. In fact, you have to hope and pray that you find him. In fact, you have to be very, very deliberate in the choices you make in the digital world if you want God to be a part of it. And that breaks my heart. When kids say, God, I'm not even sure he's online because I never see him. So this is what our kids, the hearts of our kids. So this, and I do, I wish, part of me wishes I had 20 minutes to just talk about the good stuff because I don't want you to think that Scott Frank came in and he's just blasting the internet. Yeah, I'm going to blast the internet, but there's value there. There is. I use the internet for absolutely the best of purposes. I do. I think we all do. But there is a price that we pay for having all of that information and having that accessibility and having the answers to our questions. There is a price we pay. So I literally put it in an acronym. The price we pay starts with the P, which is pornography. 1/3 of the internet, 12% of all websites, 1/3 of the internet is directly tied to three things: online pornography, online dating, or the world of sex trafficking. If you have a kid online, 1/3 of their time, 1/3 of their access, 1/3 of their exposure is directly tied to pornography. It is not a matter of if they will be exposed to pornography. In most instances, especially if they have apps like Snapchat, it literally is how many seconds. Not if, how many seconds. Log into Snapchat. I think now it's swipe right, swipe left, make a Z, and now you're into the discover mode, which we will actually see tonight if you attend tonight's presentation. It is a constant 24/7 scroll of access to pornography, access to online porn girls, access to dating sites. And if you don't believe me, grab your child's Snapchat, find the discover feature. You'll probably want to put the phone down. It's not a matter of if they will be exposed. More often than not, it's a matter of how many seconds. Dear God, thank you. This pornography is rooted in instant gratification. It makes you selfish. It erodes the bond between a husband and wife. I have about a 2-hour speech just on this topic alone. There's a website, I won't even say it. There's a website that is the most popular pornography-related website that in 1 month, it has 2.14 billion visits, more than Netflix, Pinterest, and, TikTok combined. Do you know that if you misspell Disney.com, you will be whisked away to a horrific porn site? Because this company spent literally millions of dollars doing research on how little kids misspell the word Disney. Because if they can expose, addict, attract a young male, they will be lifelong paying consumers of pornography. I'm going to say this probably 6 or 7 times today. Man, we're at war. We are. We're at war for the minds and hearts and the faith and the values of our kids. One price we pay is pornography. Another price we pay is the risk online victimization, anxiety and depression, stress on families and marriages, erosion on our faith. I'm going to try not to get emotional here. There's some families that are sitting in here at this very moment that you're struggling because of the internet. You are. Your husband's looking at things they shouldn't look. The wife just can't put the phone down. The kids, that's all they want to do. The daughter's talking or chatting with somebody online that's the worst of the worst. Some of us, some of you, and it's not just here, it's everywhere. We're just struggling. We are. I think we just look at this value, which, again, I'm not minimizing it that. I mean, the internet plays a valuable role in our life. But, hey, we have to be God-fearing enough to ask ourselves the right questions. What risk am I as a husband? What risk am I as a wife and a mother? What risk am I exposing my kids to and our family to? And there's whole topics about it, identity theft, and I mean, you can go on about the normal risk. I'm talking about the risk of the heart. I'm talking about the risk of the faith. I'm talking about how does that all mesh or does it not mesh together? The newest trend, the number one business online, is now called sextortion. There are literally factories where there are hundreds of people that are online trolling the internet, looking for our teens in hopes that they send one inappropriate image and then they will manipulate them into giving their personal information, giving them money, whatever the scenario is. It is the number one new business in the internet. Pornography, risk, the influence. I'm going to tell the kids tomorrow, and I don't think they get it, especially middle schoolers. I mean, I try really hard, but do you know that 1/4 of the internet isn't even real? It's not even real. The profiles that you may be chatting with, the news stories that you may be reading and taking to heart, the videos that you see. I showed a video once in a high school. It got like a round of applause. It was like, out of nowhere, I showed this video, and it was like a dog saving a pig. No, a pig saving a dog. So the dog's, he's like, floundering around in the water, and this heroic pig takes his little short legs and he jumps in the water, and he takes his nose and he nuzzles that dog up. And, of course, I'm up front, as I am, just kind of playing it all up and getting the kids all excited. And these kids are like, yeah. Not even real. So the next slide I showed them, underneath the water, there's like a metal trough or a track that kept the dog. And the pig had this big leash thing that was being pulled. I mean, it wasn't even real. Should have seen the look on the kids' faces. Like, what? Like, you're seriously, the hero pig isn't real? No, the hero pig's not real. But you know what? All kidding aside, I'm not real sure our kids know what's real, what's not real. Seriously. And I'm also going to tell you that not only is God not present, but those that want us to believe God isn't even real, they are present everywhere. So here we are, we're dealing with families, we're dealing with kids, that 1/3 of the internet has to do with sextortion, pornography, and online dating, and 1/4 of it isn't even real. And you wonder why some of our kids and our young adults are making the choices they are. So we need to understand that. A society of consumers, one of the things I would tell the kids tomorrow is, hey, if you want to spend less time online, then be a creator. Seriously, when's the last time that our kids made a post, made a video, crafted a picture that had anything to do with their faith or God? There's a challenge for you. When's the last time we took that approach? Instant gratification, and I'll argue with you, and this is a whole nother topic. We're just redefining what social normalcy is, and I'm telling you what, God is not rooted in that. So we as churches and places of worship and people of faith, we just have a battle in so many battlegrounds. Connections. Yes, I'm skewed. I'm way too passionate about this topic, but I also spent 11 years having connections in the digital world. It changed me as a man. It changed me as a man of faith. It made me question myself. I shouldn't tell you this, but I will. There were years I just got lost in it. There were years there wasn't God in my internet because I wasn't looking for him. I was just doing my job. I was protecting everybody else. And when I was doing that, it was my soul that was kind of paying the price. I will tell the kids tomorrow that between 18 and 25% of the very kids in this really cool town that I'm going to talk with tomorrow, they have a choice to make. And if we had all the kids from wherever come back into this place of worship, there would be 18 to 25% of the very kids in this church that have a choice to make. And that choice is, what do you do with that message that's waiting? Or what do you do with that connection that somebody's reached out to you? So this connection piece and risk of the internet. The 3 social needs, and we will talk about this at length, and I will even show you examples of how they manipulated my 3 social needs as a kid online. But let me put it to you in a short version of this. We all, especially our kids, with 0 exceptions, we need 3 social needs: affection, belonging, and recognition. Affection, you need to be loved or liked. Belonging, you need to fit into a friend group, a social circle, a family unit. And recognition, you need to be known who you are or what you do, albeit something in a positive light or a negative light. So please hear me now. That's our challenge as trusted, faith-filled adults. Our challenge is to satisfy, preferably in an offline way, to satisfy our kids. And I'm just going to say this. Sometimes to satisfy our spouses, maybe to satisfy ourselves, because we need to satisfy those three social needs: affection, belonging, and recognition, preferably in an offline way. Because hear me loud and clear, if we don't do that, especially for our kids, then the internet will. If they don't feel loved and liked, you know what? Somebody's going to say, I love you. I was said I love you by the worst of the worst on the internet 1,000 more times. And Amy can attest, I'm an I love you guy. And you know what? It paled in comparison to the feedback and the I love yous and the you're beautifuls and the I like you and will you be my friend and I can trust you. Can you trust me? I was bombarded with that as a 12-year-old kid in the digital world. So if we're not giving our kids affection, belonging, and recognition, if we're not giving them that in an offline way, if we're not giving them that in this church, then just turn them loose on the internet, and somebody in the internet will backfill their three social needs of affection, belonging, and recognition. I want to share this story. I have so many I could share. Her name was Emma, and and there's something, I don't know, maybe you can hear the repetition. There's just something about that 6th grade age group. I think that's the point where they really start making decisions. So Emma, her mom gave her a phone. Her mom would later tell me that she gave her a phone because it was the cheapest babysitter she could afford. Emma downloads an app. Emma gets the very first message that she ever received having a phone in her hand were 2 words: you're beautiful. And I'm going to go back to those 3 social needs. Nobody ever called little Emma beautiful. Nobody ever did. So she replies back, a little cheery tone in her voice. Over the course of 2 days, it was like a nonstop dialogue, nonstop conversation, a relationship formed. On day number 3, the person she was chatting with talked her into riding her little bicycle to a shopping mall. And by the way, it was in a municipality or a town smaller than where you live. The van came screeching to a halt. The doors opened, and all that was left was her little bicycle. And I spent 7 months of my career trying to extract her from the sex trafficking trade, eventually finding her in the back of a truck in a truck stop in Texas. I don't know how much more clear I can be, but our internet is posing significant risk to our kids. And this whole connectivity, this whole connection between 2 people, that is challenging for our kids. That has to be a topic of discussion. This energy in this whole acronym that I put together, our screen statistics are just alarming. We are worshiping false idols. We're creating less than healthy or godly habits. You can probably just sense my frustration with this topic. Do you know that the experts say that our high school age kids are now 7.22 hours every single day, having nothing to do with school homework? I'm just going to say this again. Here's my repetition coming in because I want you to hear it. Our kids are addicted to the internet. There are 3 types of kids. I equate it to a red light, green light, yellow light, like a traffic light. The experts say 25% of our kids are what I call red light decision makers. What does that mean? If they were driving a car, they don't care. They're going to speed, they're going to swerve, they're going to go through the red light. Well, if you put that in realistic terms about our kids online, are you listening to me? 25% of our kids don't even care what they do on the internet. They don't care what they seek. They don't care who they talk to. Now, here's the good news. Before I go back to the not so good news, there's 25% of our kids are green light decision makers. Man, I let them drive my car. They're not going to get stopped for speeding. They're looking both ways. They're using their turn signals. They probably will, however, cause accidents at yellow lights because they slam on their brakes, but I can live with that. So we have some of our kids that are actually getting online and making good choices and doing things. I'm smiling then my heart breaks, because if you did the math, we have 50% of our kids. And you know what that other 50% of our kids are doing online? Is everybody looking at Captain Frank up front? They're not doing a thing. They're just in it. They're just watching TikTok. They're just stuck in Snapchat. They're just sending disappearing messages. Listen to me. I want your kids to be green light kids. You know what? I want you to be green light decision makers. And yes, we need to be concerned about red light decision makers, but listen to what I'm about to say. We have to quit accepting yellow light decision makers. We have to quit accepting that it's okay that our kids and some of our adults, we have to quit accepting the fact it's okay that we just are mindless and doing nothing in the internet for 8 hours a day. When did that become okay? But for many parents sitting in here, that's your norm. You're like, okay, I'm so excited, I'm pumped. My kid's not looking at pornography, they're not chatting with other people. Well, then tell me what your kid is doing online. Are they investing their time, inspiring others, impact their future, which we'll get to? Oh, well, no, they're just kind of like online. That can't be good enough. It can't. Because all of this time they're spending online, what are they not doing? Seriously. What are they not doing? When does it be okay that we're just going to spend all of this, not only time, but I like to use the word energy, because it kind of drains us for everything else that we're not doing. So part of the price that we pay is our energy. All right, come on, clicker. Here's the question. I didn't come here, I came here to challenge you. Because tomorrow, one of my slides in the middle schoolers, it's a big slide, it's colorful, I made it that way on purpose, and it says this: are you up for the challenge? And this is what I'll tell the kids tomorrow. I said, hey, all of you can do one thing better, that's it. Maybe your one thing better is on Tuesdays you spend less time online. That's good. Maybe your one thing better is you stop looking at the things you're looking at. Maybe your one thing better is, why don't you find a post that somebody made that you can uplift them? You can say something kind or positive. And I often tell a story when I'm talking in the non-public sector of two teenage girls. And the one girl was expressing herself on her social media post, and she, if you read between the lines, was obviously very suicidal. She just was expressing her emotions. And do you know what her peers did? They couldn't have been any, unkind or ruthless, downright disgusting with their comments, because I think they could read between the lines. They just weren't very kind. But do you know what one girl did? This takes one. She typed, her reply was, how can I pray for you today? And that's where we need to get our kids. We need to get our kids to understand the power of what they're saying, the power of what they're typing. And here's the question for all of us. How am I honoring God with my choices I'm making online? Husbands, please look at me. Are you doing all you can? Are you putting the phone down when you shouldn't have the phone in your hands? Are you looking at things you shouldn't be looking at? Are you protecting your kids and your spouse? Are you honoring God with your choices that you're making with that device? Because a man to man, I've been there. It's not easy, but I've been there. But there's other ways to make better decisions that can honor our God and can protect your family. So let me give you this. Let's put on the full armor of God, and I'll collect my emotions. I'll pray the projector holds up. I'll take a drink. I'll not look at Amy so I don't cry. It'll be good. All right, put on the full armor of God. I want to give you something. This is my gift to you. This is what I call the starter strategy. And tonight we will go over this in much greater detail. I'm a big acronym guy. Okay, I'll tell you the truth. It kind of helps me remember things, but sometimes it kind of puts things in perspective. So what is this battle plan? The battle plan starts with the acronym, the letter S. It's just having a strategy. I mean, take all this in. I know this gets a little emotional. This is a lot of stuff. Moms and dads, it's maybe today's the day you'll walk out of here thinking, hey, number one, we got to revisit our strategy, or number two, we got to get our act together and we got to have a strategy. And by the way, it's not just a strategy for kids, it's a strategy for marriages. It's a strategy for your faith. So what does all that look like? Put your family first and then technology. Tonight, I will say, parent your child first and then your phone. Because you know what so many of us do? Oh, Scott, can you help me put this Covenant Eyes, which is good, we'll talk about that. Can you put something on my phone so my husband or my kids don't look at pornography? Well, yeah, I could, but that's not how we love and parent and protect each other. We don't rely on the device to protect us from the device. So be honest, do a risk assessment. Sit down with your spouse and say, hey, how am I doing? Am I spending too much time? And am I, my phone and the hours that I shouldn't be? I mean, sometimes we got to ask ourselves that tough question. Include prayer in God's word. Come up with a personal strategy for yourself, your marriage, your family. And I'm going to say this again, and this time I won't get so emotional, I hope. Man, I'm not saying this is easy. I'm not. I mean, I've had my own struggles like I just alluded to. But this is what God wants us to do. So we have to start with a strategy. If you're looking for a place to mold your strategy, here's your first step. I think it always needs to start with screen time. Because with screen time, everything else always follows. In my world, I just love the concept of tech-free. I love tech-free times. I love tech-free zones. I love kind of balancing. Okay, if you're watching silly TikTok videos for an hour, then you need to invest your time in an hour. And we're going to talk about this whole investing your time tonight. So whatever that looks like for you, build the screen time protection as part of your battle plan. Okay, here's the T for talk. If I serve one purpose in driving down here and me spending my time with you and you spending your time with me, and I know it sounds so simple, just have the talk. Just spouses hug and love each other and say, hey, seriously, how am I doing? Sit down with your kids. I've already told you, thousands of kids across this country, you know what they tell me? Nobody ever asked. Nobody ever asked me about my internet. So use this. I know it's so simplistic, like, okay, we brought some guy into church and he told us to talk to each other, but it's valuable. It is important. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through the big ask, which is literally how you start those first questions. I'm kind of saving that for tonight. And I'll also share some stories where the big ask, how you start that first dialogue. I'm literally going to walk you through 4 steps. I'm going to share stories of how that changed families' life. So that's a blank screen. There we go. It'll be right back. Dear God. Did you see how that works? Pastor, this is fun. Like you ask and it happens. I like that. All right. Where am I at? Okay. The next up after the talk is, in the acronym, is just appropriate. You know, when I ask kids across this country, here's the disappointment on my face. I say, hey, tell me how your parents, trusted adults, how do they define what appropriate conduct is in the internet? And kids, what do you say? They say crickets. I don't, wait a minute, time out. Whoa. You're going to tell me that your parents, trusted adults, they don't tell you what is appropriate? Well, guess what, parents? We should. And guess what? That's what parents do. And that's really what godly parents do. So you need to have that conversation, is what is good, what is bad, what is evil, what does God want, what does God not want you to do? That needs to be part of your definition. When you talk about that with your kids, after you define it, this sometimes gets boos. I'm just kidding. If ever I was going to get a boo, it would be this part. You got to define it, And you got to model it. You do. You know what kids across this country are telling me? Oh, yeah, I'm not allowed to have my phone at the dining room table, but Dad always does. So for some of us, this defining what is appropriate for our kids is a little bit of a calling on our heart. A little bit of, hey, how am I doing as a parent? How am I doing as the person who is supposed to define appropriate? We need to model that. And please have an escape clause. And for the purposes of this amazing place, I put the word grace in there. Because one thing I've learned from kids, I ask this question. I say, if something really, really goes wrong in your digital world, how many of you are likely to tell your parents and seek help? And you know what kids across this country say? Nope. And then I follow that up and I say, well, wait a minute, time out. Why won't you tell your parents if you're being pressured by a predator, if you're looking at pornography? I mean, why won't you tell your parents? Do you know what the resounding 99% of the time, do you know what the same answer is? Any guesses? They'll get mad. Nope. Yeah, they'll take their phone away. So you know what that tells me? That tells me a 13-year-old girl who's being pressured for a relationship and for sending nudes, she will put up with the pressure rather than telling her parents because she knows that their first reaction is going to be to take their phone away. Did I take the phone away from my kids? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I say that with a smile on my face. But listen to me. They always got their phone back. Always. Because if they don't have my phone, they're going to have access to somebody else's phone. That's just the way I believe that. But with getting their phone back, do you know what was incumbent upon me? I redefined what appropriate is. I did. That was my opportunity to not only correct their behavior, but guess who else's behavior it was time to correct? It was mine. Because somewhere on the lines, I must not have defined what is appropriate. Or maybe, heaven forbid, I didn't even model what was appropriate. So I just want you to know that your kids are thinking that they are reluctant to tell you because your first reaction will be to take that phone away. I'm not saying don't take it away. I'm just saying make sure that you have the protections built in, that they're not so fearful that they won't tell you because of that. And I like this last line. How many times can I say that? Did I already say to model it? Here's the R, somewhat controversial. I don't really care. I seriously don't. You should have access to everything that your kids do. And I'm going to make a bold statement. And I know my wife, Amy, is sitting here. And this hasn't always been easy for me. Sometimes I put up my own privacy barriers. But you should have access to everything your spouse does too. Yeah, some men probably don't like that, but let's jump back to our kids. If for no other reason you are what I taught in my DARE days, it's a reason or excuse. Hey, if your kid's getting pressure from somebody, you know what they can quickly say? Oh, I just want to let you know my dad reads all of my messages. My daughter doesn't have to say anything. My daughter can just blame who? She can blame me. Heaven forbid, what if something happens? I'll give you a true story. We were investigating a missing 15-year-old girl. As a internet crimes against children investigator, common sense tells you we talked to the kids' friends, and they all said the same thing. Oh yeah, she's chatting with somebody online. So common sense tells you I rushed to Dad, who was the sole custodian, and I said, hey, I think she's with some guy she met online. I need to get into her social media accounts. I'll never forget it. He looked at me and he goes, you expect me to do that? Yeah, I do expect you to do that. Because you know what? That's what we do as loving parents. That's what we do. If you want to argue with me about, hey, my child's got privacy, I'll entertain that argument. Because first and foremost, I love my kids, I protect my kids, and I'll worry about their privacy third. Some parents don't like that, but I'm the paid speaker, so I get to say whatever I want to say. So that's how that works. So, all right, here's the tough one we just talked about. Along with encouraging transparency, having access to the devices. Tonight's going to be an amazing part of the program, because if you attend, I'm going to walk you through a digital device. I'm going to walk you through some of these apps. I'm going to talk about functionality that sometimes parents, I can see the look on their face, like, what did you just say? My son or daughter can do this with their phone, or they can do this with their phone. So we got probably a good 20 to 25 minutes tonight of doing nothing about talking about the technology that your kids have. There are some good things. You can always ask Google, and I know that sounds silly, like we're in war with the internet, but you know one of your best allies is just asking Google, because Google will give you a ton of information. We'll talk tonight about OpenDNS and Bark and Custodio. We'll discuss apps. I will talk heavily tonight about two things. Number one is GPS that puts our kids at risk. And I will show you some examples of apps that people have access to. You just probably sit there like a blank look on your face, like, I had no idea that GPS could even do that. I will also talk about the new next frontier, and that's artificial intelligence. I got about a 20-minute spiel on that, but let me say this. This is an opportunity, because do you know who does not know about AI right now? They know very little. It's our kids. Do you think our kids are experts on Snapchat? Oh, yeah. Do you think our parents are? No, they're not. But AI is an opportunity for you as parents and trusted adults. It's even an opportunity for the church. The church could say, hey, AI is going to be the next big frontier. It is. So how can we use that to bring people closer to God? How can we use that to learn things? This is the only opportunity that I know where parents can know more about something on the internet than their kids. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if you're going back and thinking you're going to be a Snapchat expert, we're probably going to lose that battle. But I am going to profess to you tonight that AI is the next big frontier. Okay, here's the E for embrace. I'm going to talk so much about this. This is just comes from the bottom of my heart, and it comes from my right shoulder sleeve. Everywhere I go, I want to take this with me, because this is the E part of the starter strategy. The E is to embrace. Can everybody look at Captain Frank? That's what I do, the boys and girls, and they sit up straight and they look. It almost always works. Not so much in here. It's okay. Hey, amidst all this, don't forget this. There are opportunities for all of us, especially our kids. And tonight and tomorrow with the kids, I will show them real life examples about three of the most powerful questions that you can build into your strategy. And here's the question. Number one, encourage your kids to ask this. And I don't know how many kids I'm going to have tomorrow, but this will be the first question on the list. Ask yourself, hey, am I wasting or investing my time online? And when I ask kids, I say, hey, what does it mean to invest your time online? Do you know what I get? Whole big pound of crickets again. Because you know what I don't think our kids know? I don't think they know how to use the search queues. I don't think they know the valuable parts of the internet. I don't think they know how to put value in their time. Next up is, are you inspiring others? And I'm just going to say this, man, the faith community, what an opportunity. If we do this right and steer our kids the right direction, I mean, there's so much God-filled goodness that can come out of this. But we need to be the catalyst of that. We need to give them the skill sets and the training where they can inspire others. And finally, especially in my high schoolers, lots of examples about being turned down for jobs, about not being accepted into college, about what you do is leaving a first impression. Your first impression was really good, the second impression, because you didn't do so well in the hello, the good morning. Remember we had to redo that a long time ago? But hey, I'm big on first impressions, but in all seriousness, your first impressions was well before I pulled in your parking lot. Your first impression was what? Your websites. It was your contact with Justin. It was your Facebook. Did I do my research? Oh, absolutely. Did I watch you? That was a good thing. It was. It wasn't a bad thing. I watched you streaming. So I'm just telling you that we can't lose sight of, hey, this impacting all of our future and maybe impacting the direction the church goes, the internet is going to play a role in that. Because again, I did my due diligence and I had a feel and a flavor for this place before I ever set foot through the doors. And I will say this, you exceeded my expectations. It was just amazing from the second I walked in here. So don't forget this E for opportunity. And here's the R for resources. I see some of you taking notes. I want to give you just a couple. We'll go into more detail tonight. Gentlemen, I'm just going to say this. I believe in accountability partners. And I'm going to say two things. Covenant Eyes is a faith-based organization that will help you with that. And I'm also going to make a really bold statement. If you need an accountability partner, just send me an email. That's what I'm here for. Other resources, I love Josh Oakes at Smart Social. Screen Sanity is a group of moms that are really trying to tackle and provide good information about how much time our kids are spending online. I love Common Sense Media. It has age-appropriate lesson plans that are available to you. I use, for my kids, Google Family Link. It's great in protecting especially Griffin's devices. It works on computers, it works on tablets, it works on phones. Best part is it's free and it works. And next up, we're just a Life 360 family. Amy was driving down here, and she doesn't know this. I just sat on my phone and watched her speed and how she was doing. So I almost sent a text that said, honey, I love you, but slow down. But I just left the I love you part. So, all right, hey, tonight, it's just my prayer. I just hope you guys have worked so hard, all the area churches, to bring this together. I hope the place rocks. I hope we fill up every seat because we have lots to talk about. So, all right, God bless you guys. Thank you for your time. All righty.